It was one of those golden mornings in downtown Los Angeles, when the streets glittered with sunshine and the air smelled of fresh espresso and new beginnings. The kind of day that made even the most ordinary moments feel like something important was about to happen. Amara Johnson parked her car a few blocks away from the famous boutique, Claudia's House of Style. She stepped out, dressed in a simple cream blouse, jeans, and low heels. Her hair was tied neatly, her face calm, confident, yet humble. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She just needed a gift, something elegant for an upcoming charity gala. As she entered the boutique, the silver bell above the door chimed softly. The air smelled of perfume and polished marble. Mannequins stood like silent guards, draped in designer dresses worth more than most people's rent. And behind the counter stood Claudia herself, tall, perfectly styled, wrapped in confidence and expensive silk. At first, Claudia barely looked up from her tablet. She glanced at Amara, then at her shoes, her bag, her plain outfit. In that single glance, a judgment was made, the kind that cuts deeper than words ever could. "Can I help you?" Claudia asked, her tone sugar-coated but sharp beneath the surface. Amara smiled politely. "Yes, I'm looking for something special. A dress, perhaps, or a gift, something classic." Claudia's lips curved into a polite, almost pitying smile. "Oh, well, our items are quite exclusive. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the outlet down the street? They carry a lovely selection that's a bit more affordable." Amara blinked, caught between surprise and disbelief. "I think I'll look around here if you don't mind." The owner gave a little laugh, quiet, dismissive. "Of course, just be careful with the merchandise." Each word was dipped in venom disguised as politeness. A few customers glanced over, sensing the tension. One woman frowned, whispering something to her friend, but no one spoke up. That's how it often happens. Cruelty hidden behind smiles and silence filling the room where decency should stand. Amara walked slowly through the boutique, admiring the designs, trying to ignore the eyes following her every step. Claudia's assistant trailed her at a distance, pretending to help, but really making sure she didn't touch anything for too long. Amara lifted a silk gown from a rack, a deep emerald piece that shimmered under the light. "This is beautiful," she said softly. "Could I try it on?" Claudia's voice carried across the room. "That one's a limited piece, $6,000. Are you sure?" It wasn't the words, it was how she said them. The way her eyes narrowed, as if to measure Amara's worth by her skin, her simplicity, her silence. Amara nodded calmly. "Yes, I'd like to see how it fits." Claudia sighed dramatically as if doing a favor. "Very well, but please be careful. It's quite delicate." Minutes later, Amara stepped out from the fitting room, the emerald gown draped perfectly across her figure. It was as if the dress had been made for her. Even a few customers stopped to admire the look. One of them whispered, "Wow, she looks stunning." But Claudia only folded her arms and frowned. Well, the color is nice, but it's not really you. It's a dress meant for someone who belongs to that world, you know." Amara looked at her reflection, graceful, composed, glowing, and then at Claudia, whose smile didn't reach her eyes. "What world is that exactly?" Amara asked softly. Claudia chuckled. "Oh, don't misunderstand me, dear. I'm just saying it's a bold choice. Not everyone can pull off elegance. You understand?" The silence that followed was heavy, like a curtain dropping on the truth neither of them needed to name. Amara's voice was steady when she finally spoke. "I do understand, thank you." She turned and walked back to the fitting room. A few moments later, she returned in her own clothes, the emerald gown neatly folded over her arm. Claudia reached for it, inspecting every inch as if expecting it to be damaged. "No harm done," Amara said with a polite smile. "It's a lovely piece, you have good taste." Claudia tilted her head, satisfied that her authority was re-established. "I'm sure you'll find something more suitable elsewhere." Amara nodded once, her calm composure unwavering. "I'm sure I will." As she walked out of the store, The same silver bell chimed behind her, but this time it sounded different, almost like a quiet promise. Outside, the sun had shifted, casting long golden shadows down the street. Amara took a deep breath and smiled faintly. She had faced moments like this before, moments that reminded her that some people still saw only skin, never soul. But she had also learned something else, that dignity doesn't need to shout. It simply stands tall and waits, because the truth always finds its moment. And Amara's moment was coming sooner than anyone in that boutique could ever imagine. The next morning, the boutique sparkled brighter than usual. The glass windows were polished to perfection, the floors gleamed, and soft jazz played through hidden speakers. Claudia walked through the store with her usual air of importance, snapping instructions at her staff. Today was not an ordinary day. The regional representatives of a major luxury retail group were coming, the kind of people who could turn her little boutique into a brand known nationwide. If she impressed them, her future would be sealed among the elite. Claudia loved mornings like this, and when she could feel superior, in control, admired. She wore her most expensive blazer and that signature pearl necklace that made her feel untouchable. Everything had to be perfect. Her assistant rushed up, holding a glossy magazine. "The new Forbes issue just arrived," she said breathlessly. "They're calling it the Power Women in Business edition." Claudia smiled, only half interested. "Leave it on the counter, I don't have time for that right now." But the assistant hesitated. "You might want to see this one." Claudia sighed, took the magazine and glanced at the cover. Then she froze. Her hand trembled slightly and her smile vanished. On the cover, staring back at her with quiet confidence, was the young woman she had insulted yesterday, no older than her early 20s, the same woman whose voice she had dismissed, whose presence she had belittled. The bold letters beneath the photo read, "Amara Johnson, the visionary CEO behind Aura Retail Group." Claudia's throat went dry. Aura Retail Group, the parent company that owned dozens of high-end stores, including several she desperately wanted to partner with. Her boutique's future depended on them. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. She turned the page, scanning the article, reading lines that made her stomach twist. Known for her humble beginnings, Amara Johnson, only 24, has become one of the most influential entrepreneurs in luxury retail. Her vision, to make elegance accessible while preserving dignity and inclusivity, has redefined the industry. Claudia could barely breathe. Her assistant whispered, "Isn't that the woman from yesterday?" Claudia didn't answer. She just stared at the magazine, her reflection trembling in the glossy page. Memories from the previous day replayed in her mind. Her words, her tone, her laughter. The way she had looked Amara up and down like she was unworthy of standing in her store. She had humiliated the CEO of the company she was now begging to work with. A wave of panic surged through her. "No one says a word about this," she snapped to her assistant. "Do you understand me?" But word travels fast, faster than she could control. By noon, whispers had spread through her staff, and even the customers seemed to sense something was wrong. One woman at the counter pointed to the magazine and whispered, "Isn't that her?" Claudia pretended not to hear. She focused on rearranging handbags, adjusting displays, anything to look busy, to pretend that her world wasn't cracking beneath her heels. Then the phone rang. Her assistant answered, eyes wide. "It's the corporate office. They said Ms. Johnson will be visiting today personally." Claudia's hands went cold. "What? Here? Why?" "They said she's touring boutiques under review for new partnerships." Claudia's heart pounded so loud she could almost hear it echo through the marble floor. Her voice trembled. "Get everyone ready. Fresh flowers, champagne, and make sure the staff looks perfect." Hours passed in slow motion. Every sound felt amplified. The ticking of the clock, the faint hum of the lights, the distant murmur of traffic outside. When the door finally opened and the familiar silver bell chimed, Claudia nearly stopped breathing. Amara stepped inside, wearing a tailored suit the color of midnight blue. Her hair framed her face with effortless grace. She looked powerful, but not arrogant. Calm, but commanding. She was still so young, barely in her 20s, yet carried herself with the quiet authority of someone twice her age. The kind of presence that filled the room without a single word. Claudia forced a smile. "Ms. Johnson, what an honor. Welcome to my boutique." Amara's eyes met hers for the first time since that morning. Steady, unreadable, but kind. "Thank you," she said softly. "I remember this place." Those words landed like thunder. Claudia felt the ground shift beneath her. Her assistant busied herself with glasses and trays, pretending not to notice the tension between them. Claudia began talking too fast, desperate to regain control. "We're just so thrilled about the possibility of working with your company. I believe our brand aligns perfectly with Aura's philosophy of luxury and—" Amara raised a hand gently, stopping her. "I'm sure we'll discuss all that in time." She turned her gaze toward the displays, walking slowly, taking in the details of the boutique she once entered as a nobody. The same marble floors, the same perfume in the air. Everything the same, yet everything different. Customers whispered again, realizing who she was. This time, their looks were filled not with judgment, but admiration. Claudia followed her nervously, every step feeling like a lifetime. "If I may say, Ms. Johnson, you look absolutely stunning today. That suit is extraordinary. Is it from our new collection?" Amara smiled faintly. "No, it's from my own." The words hung in the air like a quiet storm. Claudia's painted smile faltered. Amara turned toward her, calm, graceful, but with a power that needed no force to be felt. "I appreciate fine craftsmanship," she said softly, "especially when it's paired with respect." There was no anger in her voice, no bitterness, just truth, and that truth weighed more heavily on Claudia than any insult could. In that moment, Claudia realized the young woman she had mocked wasn't just wealthy or successful. She was everything Claudia had pretended to be: composed, intelligent, and truly elegant. The kind of elegance no designer could sell. As Amara moved toward the exit, her assistant asked if she wanted a car sent for her next visit. She smiled. "No need. I prefer to walk. Sometimes you see people more clearly when you walk among them." The door closed behind her and Claudia stood still, surrounded by luxury, yet stripped of all illusion. She turned to the magazine still open on the counter, the same confident face looking back at her. The woman she had judged by appearance now defined the very world she wanted to belong to. And for the first time in years, Claudia didn't feel powerful. She just felt small. The next day dawned quiet and silver gray, the kind of morning when the city holds its breath. In the boutique, tension hung in the air like perfume that had lingered too long. Claudia hadn't slept. All night she replayed every moment from the day before. Every word, every smirk, every look she'd given that young woman. That young woman who had turned out to be one of the most powerful figures in the very world Claudia worshipped. Now, as she waited for the official meeting, she tried to convince herself it wasn't over. Maybe Amara wouldn't hold it against her. Maybe she would understand. After all, it had only been a misunderstanding. That's what Claudia kept telling herself. A misunderstanding. Not cruelty, not arrogance, just a simple mistake. But deep down she knew better. At 11 sharp, Amara arrived. She wasn't alone this time. 2 executives from Aura Retail Group accompanied her, carrying tablets and folders. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Employees stood straighter. Even the air felt different. Amara's calm presence filled the space like quiet music. She greeted everyone politely, including Claudia, with a gentle nod. "Thank you for having us," Amara said. Her tone was warm, professional, but unreadable. Claudia launched into her presentation, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke about brand identity, luxury strategy, customer experience. She used all the right words, all the practiced charm. But beneath every sentence was fear, the kind that no Polish could hide. When she finished, the room fell silent. Everyone waited for Amara to speak. Amara set her tablet down, folded her hands, and looked around slowly. Her gaze wasn't harsh, but it was piercing, the kind that sees beyond the surface. "This is a beautiful store," she began. And I can see how much work has gone into building it. Claudia exhaled, relief washing over her face. Maybe this would be all right after all. But, Amara continued softly, a brand isn't only what it sells, it's how it makes people feel. The true measure of luxury isn't exclusivity, it's dignity. Her words were calm, yet every syllable carried weight. The other executives nodded silently. Amara's eyes met Claudia's. Yesterday, I came here, not as a CEO, not as anyone special, just a young woman in her 20s looking for a dress. Claudia's heart stopped. Every whisper in the room went silent. I was told, Amara went on, that perhaps I'd be more comfortable somewhere else, that this space wasn't for me. The assistant behind the counter lowered her head. A few employees shifted uncomfortably, their faces pale. Claudia tried to speak. Ms. Johnson, Amara raised a gentle hand. Please, I'm not here for apologies. I'm here for clarity. She stood, her voice steady, every word precise. Aura partners only with those who see people, not price tags, not colors, not assumptions, just people. There was no anger in her tone, just truth, a truth that echoed through the marble walls louder than shouting ever could. Claudia's face drained of color. She knew what those words meant before Amara even finished. We'll be moving forward with other boutiques, Amara said. Ones that understand what real luxury looks like, respect. For a moment, no one moved. No one even breathed. Then Amara extended her hand to Claudia, not out of pity, but as a final gesture of grace. I truly wish you the best, she said quietly. Growth often begins in the moments that hurt the most. Claudia managed a trembling nod, her eyes glistening. Ms. Johnson, I'm sorry. Amara smiled faintly. I know. And with that, she turned and walked out of the boutique. The silver bell above the door rang once more, that same soft chime that had echoed 2 days ago, when Amara had first entered as a stranger. But now it sounded like closure, like justice. Outside, the light had changed again. Brighter now, sharper. Amara stepped into it with calm assurance, her reflection shining in the boutique window behind her. Inside, Claudia stood frozen. Around her, everything looked the same. The dresses, the mirrors, the perfume. Yet it all felt different. For the first time, she saw her store as it truly was, a beautiful shell built on shallow pride. She glanced down at the open magazine on her desk, Amara's youthful face smiling back from the cover of Forbes. The caption read, Redefining Elegance for the Modern World. Claudia exhaled shakily, her own reflection blurring in the glossy page. For years, she had believed that money and taste made her better. But now she knew, none of it meant anything without humility. Meanwhile, outside, Amara walked calmly through the city streets. Strangers passed her without knowing who she was, and she preferred it that way. Power didn't need to announce itself. It simply was. She paused at a cafe window, watching people laugh, work, live, all shades, all stories, each carrying a world of their own. And for a moment she thought about how many others had been judged the same way she was. Dismissed, underestimated, unseen. Maybe that's why her company mattered. Not for the luxury it sold, but for the change it inspired. Because true elegance isn't about what you wear, it asks about how you treat others. That's the lesson Claudia learned too late. But for everyone else listening, maybe it's not too late yet. Because respect costs nothing. And it can change everything. So if this story spoke to you, share it. Tell someone about it. Let it remind the world that kindness never goes out of style. And that dignity is the finest thing a person can wear.